Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the new hero class of Runepriest. This was just brought in this Friday, and it is a new hero class for the Kingdom of Khaziel that counts as a dwarf. And able to unlock it, you can just either go to the Khaziel Kingdom if you've already completed out the questline and do the quests that are then at the end of it, or alternatively, you can go into games, go into the class event, and even if you don't have the quest lines completed within Khaziel, you can just click a green button that's here, and then you'll be able to unlock the hero class that way. You get 4 battles per day throughout the event. It lasts all the way from Friday reset until the Monday reset, so still plenty of time to do it this weekend. And you would get 4 battles for each of those days for a total of 12 battles for free. If you want to do more, you can go into the shop tab and end up getting more, though I do not really advise doing so for the most part. Especially as a newer player, I would just advise using your free ones. And really, the only point you should, or the only time you should ever really go and actually buy all of these is if you're looking to power level your hero class very, very quick. But you should only do it if you have many more gems than you know what to do with. At least 5,000, if not higher, I would advise doing before even thinking about using gems for your hero class. Other than that, you basically just fight in a bunch of battles where you go and have to use, you're restricted to based on 2 things. Whatever the kingdom is for the hero class and whatever the troop type is for the hero class. So in the case of right now, we are restricted to both the Khaziel Kingdom, as well as specifically dwarves within the Khaziel Kingdom. So basically what I've been using for this is Highforge, our hero class using the black manacle weapon, as well as Apothecary and a second Highforge. If you don't have a second Highforge, of course you could just put basically any front line there using black manacle, Apothecary, Highforge, and then just keep replacing out first slot with whatever Highforge summons. And if you don't have that, alternatively, you could go black manacles with Apothecary with just 2 scrap troops, and if you don't have any of that, the next alternative is triple Dwarven Gate, basically into any 15 mana cost weapon, and you can try going down that route. Do keep in mind, going down the Dwarven Gate route will be bad against Val Ravens. It will also be bad against this particular battle due to Corvash having a double drain, as well as the Mana Core having a drain, which would kind of mess up the whole loop of the triple Dwarven Gate, but it's still something to consider for the other battles. As far as the hero class itself, it is relatively average, but does have some potential in there. So as far as the class, the kind of perks that we have, actually before we even go over that, the traits. So it gives all dwarves 2 life at the start of battle, summons a dust storm when an enemy dies, which is actually the first hero class to get a storm on its specific trait, so that's pretty cool. Though this does mean that you can't deactivate his storm, so now you're always stuck having a dust storm whenever an enemy dies, which more often than not in the case of a dwarf team is actually really good, but you know, sometimes you don't actually want to have a storm, though if you're running something more like a Gorgolfa or something. Unfortunately, there aren't really any explosions in the dwarves that are really particularly good. Maybe once they finally get one, that could really start to see some synergy. Other than that, the other thing that it has that is decent is it gains all allies, or all dwarven allies, end up gaining 2 attack and 2 life every single extra turn you do, and that could definitely start to stack up a lot, especially with Apothecary, Deep Bore, stuff like that, feeding you a lot of extra turns. There are several different gem spawners and converts under dwarves that are decent enough that it can synergize with that and get you a really substantial amount of bonuses. As far as the talent tree, it's a pretty mid-range, tanky kind of tree. It's mainly only going to be good for, I feel like, Red Guild War Day, for the most part, just to upgrade your defend team for that. I personally won't be running it into any of my normal PvP teams, just because it's a little bit too slow. As far as the first tree we have here, all of them are good. Inflict stun whenever the hero gets hit, good if the hero is the tank. Random stats effect to an ally, or you can go with the +2 armor to all browns. Generally, I go for the random status effect, as this can be used offensively to try to gain things like enchant, or maybe even just a barrier on the first law, or just anything that it happens to do. Can be pretty useful. Can give any random positive status effect in the entire game to a random ally of yours. Next up is a useless tree. This actually has a block, it's like similar other classes, like for example Archer, where it is basically forced to have to take a magic buff onto one of its weapons. All 3 of these are pretty bad. If you were to go for one, it'd probably be the shield bonus or the hammer bonus. I just have it at hammer at the moment, so we could show his new hammer weapon. Other than that, you can also go in the next tree. There are 2 decent ones, gain barrier at the start of battle, which is generally what I go with, but if you want to stack even more brown armor, we have 2 over here, and we can get additional 3 right here. And on top of that 2 HP to all dwarves, we have now gotten up to 7 total durability, and we can go even higher than that. The next one gives 4 armor to all dwarves, So in total, we can get 11 durability to all brown dwarves on our team, 9 into armor and 2 into HP just from having these 3 traits, the stone wall, the stone circle, and the dwarven armor combined with his first trait. So that's a decent amount of tankiness to get right off the start of the battle. Not to mention the synergy themselves also gain a okay amount of durability. Other than that, you can also go and gain more offensive stats like extra magic, or 20% of your skull or of your armor value being done in skull. Both of those are decent too, but given I'm used to doing the event, I just opted for a little bit more armor so that the dwarves don't die as quickly. And now we start getting into the things of why he's actually used. Main thing here being the barrier that it gains every single brown. The brown tree, or stone tree in general, is actually really strong. But here we can gain barrier every single time we take brown. This is basically kind of like Stasia's ability, except in a way even better, because all we need is browns on the board, and we have a lot of things that can do that. Many dwarves can create brown. This hero class itself even creates a brown storm when an enemy dies. So you're not really going to have too big a lack of browns. That's really nice. Basically going to have perpetual barriered hero. So that definitely has a lot of potential, especially since the hero class and the troops that it gets synergized with are really brown dependent. So you're already going to be taking a lot of browns from the board, so you're not even going out of your way to perpetually barrier your hero, which is cool. Other than that, it does have some offensive options like 1 magic to all allies, which can be useful at times. And in the case of defense, when you know the AI will not do it correctly, you can also opt for gaining a random barrier whenever an ally dies, which can also be decent. And of course, why the whole reason we got it to level 70 is this allows it to be used on Red Guild War Day pretty nicely with banishment. This is probably the main reason I actually got it to level 70, and the main purpose I really have for it is dispels all enemies on 4 times and 5 times matches. If any of you have used Dwarf Defend before or faced it in Guild Wars and stuff like that, you know one of the easiest counters to it is generally to go and use a team that has barrier spam. Putting something like a Wisp on it has been one kind of alternative that you can do to try to counter that, but now we can actually use our hero class for it that's set as Dwarf, so you get even more bonus and you'd still have that Dispel to get rid of the annoying barriers on the enemy team. Dwarves have a big problem with removing barriers since basically all of their hits are either single shot or double hit, so they don't really do too good against barrier spam, but this will allow you to just completely negate it as well as any other positive stats effects they may have. Other than that, you can also gain enchant every single time you take green. This I would only use if you're personally controlling it and trying to take Apothecary on greens, so you can get enchant for your blocked hero on brown or whatever color it's using. And alternatively, what I normally just use is the extra brown bonus mana. If you're running a full dwarf team, you're probably running Apothecary or Deep Boar, probably Apothecary in most instances due to cleanse, and you just be able to keep going and cleansing out all of your allies, as well as getting a lot of brown, which of course go stack even higher, and you're already going to be taking brown anyways because the barrier you gain every single time you take a brown. Other than that, as far as the final tree, the only one that's really worth going for is the immune to everything. Of course, I don't have this unlocked yet. It takes a while before 70 to 100, but if you do happen to go all the way with it, you would gain immune to stun, poison, disease, and death mark and devour. Though personally, I feel like a good majority of its potential is achieved at simply level 70, and if you're just using it for defense, I wouldn't really bother going much further than that, as there are many other slightly better hero classes that you can be opting into. As far as the hero class itself, we do have the weapon that ends up coming into it. It's like a little mini Infernus in a way, though much weaker than it. It deals damage to an enemy and then does half to the adjacents. So right here we're going to do 29, technically 31 because of our extra 2 magic, so let's just say 30. We do 30 and then adjacents of 15 damage to both of them of whatever we hit. So we pick a target, it'll hit with 30, and then the 2 adjacents will get hit by 15. Also has an interesting mechanic where it explodes based on how many brown allies are within the battle, so it could potentially be an okay brown counter kind of weapon, though more often than not there's only going to be about 4 to 5 browns within the battle, if even that many, depending on how many you use on your specific team, so that's not really too many explosions that you're going to be getting out of this. It's relatively low mana cost, or at least mid-range as far as the explosions that it gets, but for the most part, not really that great of a weapon, still kind of fun to mess around with, but and I'll be showing it in a bit, but it's more towards the weaker side. As far as hero weapons are concerned, Creeping Death I would still say is about one of the only pretty substantial ones that are still obtainable from it. But anyways, let's get into some teams for the new hero class itself. Let's start actually with the Runeforger, going with a full Khaziel team. As I mentioned, this hero does count as Khaziel, so this is a 4 times Khaziel team. It is 3 times Dwarf, however, simply because the Gorgulfa, unfortunately, is not considered a Dwarf. This is not too big a deal. The biggest issue, though, is there isn't really a proper frontline tank Dwarf. There's technically Stonehammer, but he normally blocks too much mana to bother putting him into an actual Dwarf team. But we'll go for an explosion here. One really nice thing that dwarves do have that will help to make them have good synergy into the future is Highforge. Highforge is really high damage. It's kind of like a concentrated Dragon Soul in a way, particularly earlier on in the game. You get a 6 times boost ratio for every single dwarf on your team, and that includes your hero since it does indeed count as a dwarf as well. And it also gets a summon of a dwarf, so even if you start losing some of your team, you can just get right back to a full team of dwarves and still be hitting full damage with them. He also, of course, has the iconic 50% mana start for everything. And one nice thing about all dwarves, including the hero class itself, if you get it to level 100, is they all have immune to stun, poison, disease, death mark, and devour, which can come in handy, particularly the death mark and devour immunities. But we'll go and get that down just to apply a little bit of damage. We want to try getting this weapon up, but we do not currently have alignment. I think we'll go for it even without it, so we'll just do it on the right here. That will give us our cleanse for our Gorgulfa, as well as this new rune loader weapon. As far as what we focus on, probably Dragon Soul will be our target. He's going to get a summon there. What I'm going to deliberately do is wait till a cast before I get a kill. So we're going to wait on that. We're going to go and not even going to bother hitting on that yet, because the Highforge will already be enough to kill it. So he does that. Unfortunately, he does not go for his Christine X. Was hoping he would right about there. But we'll just go for Explosion then. I'm kind of waiting till he does that if we can. I guess we'll go for it now if he doesn't, but well, let's see. Do we have a good convert on anything? I guess we'll go for the blue. As you can see, we're perpetually barriered on hero like crazy at this point. He is not going anywhere. So he's going to get a summon. You know what? We can still delay it out a little bit. So we'll go for another poke right here. That shouldn't kill it out. So he didn't Christine X. Also, the other annoying thing is he just cleansed there. So now he doesn't have a stun on him. That is unfortunate in that he will now have a 50% chance to revive into that dragon. And I do not have enough damage to currently kill it either. So let's see if he gets scroll distracted. At this point, he might. So we'll go for that. He does indeed get the revive. That is obviously not exactly what I want. He transforms right back to Dragon Soul. Oh, why? I hate that so much. It's, what is it, 1 in 30 chance? However many dragons there are in the game, out of 1 is the chance that that would occur. But yes, Dragon Soul can transform into Baby Dragon that then transforms back into Dragon Soul. How annoying that is. But let's kill out Christine X. I've been trying to focus this down this entire time. A little bit annoying. I don't want him to get that summon, though at this point, should have probably just let him have that summon. But we'll go and get a little bit of splash right there. If nothing else, at least we get to re-stun him this time around, so we don't have to deal with it. So at least got that. One really nice thing about this hero class is due to the perk that it has, it is gaining a lot of HP and attack to all of our dwarves. Of course, the Gorgulfa specifically isn't getting that bonus, but everything else on our team is, which definitely starts to stack up quite a bit. Fortunately, since these two aren't next to each other, I can't go use this weapon to kill that out. So I'm just going to go for Gorgulfa here, since this could be way more than enough damage to kill out his hero. Ideally, this thing will stay stunned, so we'll go try doing a Khaziel poke on him next, as that will be the easiest way to try to keep him stunned. There does not appear to be an extra turn, so we'll go for a Gorgulfa and just hope we get lucky. And we do indeed land it. Double check the board. Doesn't look like we really have anything. That skull will not be enough damage. So we'll just go throw another stun at it, bring it down to 1 HP, and then we just go kill it. And now that he's stunned, there's 0% chance he'll go and transform into a baby dragon. And there we go. That's pretty much that team with the new weapon. Nothing exceptionally over the top, that is for sure. But this next one is a little bit interesting. It's a weapon you don't really use that often, or really ever. But Farsight Orb, it creates 7 blue, and increases a random skill based on your magic +1. In the past, this weapon has been, well, way in the past, it was actually one of the better weapons in the game. These days, they've nerfed it to the degree that you would never really see it, but it ends up creating blues, which serves 2 really good purposes for this team. One is it feeds Apothecary or mana, and the other is we get Bloodhammer to actually have converts. He, of course, converts all blues to Doomskulls, and we can get a pretty big hit off of this. Generally, the composition for this team would end up using a Glaceon in first slot, but if we get a good enough alignment on King Bloodhammer, we can actually win quicker with this, and it's also slightly safer, since we are, even though we don't have 65% skull reduction, of course, this hero class does gain barrier every round we take. So in a way, in many instances, other than against skull spam, we're actually tankier than what a Glaceon would end up being, even though Glaceon is still one of the tankiest troops in the game. But let's go and take a blue, take a red. Actually, a really good start, so I am perfectly fine with that. Doesn't look like we have everything we need, though, so we'll go and convert out this red. I believe that does give us our alignment, so very nice. Go for that immediately and get our first kill. Doomstorm was nerfed this patch, but still, it is decent nonetheless. Do keep in mind that your storm works based on whichever one is lower down in your team. So even though we have a storm on this, which creates a dust storm when an enemy dies, we also have a storm of this, which is creating a doom storm when an enemy dies. And since this is lower down in our team hierarchy, whichever one is lowest down would end up getting the storm itself. So do keep that in mind. If this hero was behind our Bloodhammer, we'd actually get a Brown Storm instead of a Doomstorm, which obviously we would not want to have happen. So right here, we are so close to getting this thing to full mana that we're just going to go do it. Take that, and of course he still gets a skull in there, somehow. But we'll go throw this down. Ideally, this will give us alignment, and they would just throw it right into that. Also, ideally, it will give us attack. Apparently, it does HP right there, which isn't going to help us too much. But, ooh, we don't even have Apothecary. If we did, we could align that. I guess I'll still move it because maybe he won't take it. So, oh, nope, that skull fell, so he was going to take it. Unfortunate. Board's getting quite congested. I'm going to kind of just let him do something, as there's a good chance he might give us anything on the board. He does not, though. So I guess we'll take this yellow. Seems like the safest thing. I can't throw Bloodhammer at the moment. Actually, you know what? Brown. We'll take brown instead. Go for that. He leaves us that over there. I guess we'll just go for this, because we do get 2 hits on it, as well as the pretty much all of them dead. All we need to do now is just hit it with 2 more pokes, and we'll be good to go. So he'll hit us with 1. We'll go for the other one. Didn't get a Cascade. But all we have to do now is just follow it up with anything. We still have Doomstorm going every single time they die, so can have plenty of skulls to use. Every brown we take, we just gain barrier back and just keep mitigating the damage out that way. Apparently we have a nothing here, but luckily the next battle I don't actually need to go do PvP. So lastly, the final thing I wanted to show with this hero class is the main thing I actually intend to use this hero class for personally, and that is specifically on a Guild War Defend Day. There isn't a exceptionally good green-purple weapon, and I was considering using Prismatic Orb or something in last time. I'm still kind of considering what the weapon will be, but of course the standard Lord Ironbeard, Lady Ironbeard, and King Highforge. Basically just using your hero, ideally with a green-purple weapon. Doesn't have to be, though, yeah, there definitely could be some better green-purples out there, and there probably will be in the future. At the moment, trying to use the 7 gem spawn in hopes that we hit an extra turn when the AI goes for it. It also submerges a random ally, so if they're using a Dawnbringer, we'll be able to at least have protection on one of them. It also gives a little bit of magic, but that's pretty much irrelevant. Main thing that's nice about this is it's such a low mana cost, so you can kind of loop it a bit. It also allows you to put your hero class up a little bit further. If you use Prismatic Orb, you would have to use it all the way in last slot. And while Prismatic Orb is technically a better weapon than this, particularly when fully upgraded, the biggest downside that would really have in the context of this team is we wouldn't be able to use the hero up front, so the AI can barrier with it. We are still gaining barrier every single time we take brown. I also want to go and revamp the traits real quick just to change them up. We're going to, with this specific team, want to go to the banishment for this. As I mentioned on Red Guild War Day, you're definitely going to want to have that banish so that you can get rid of any of the barriers that the enemy may have. It's a really common strategy to go and try to throw barriers against it, as it's generally the easiest way to win against dwarves. So basically, we're going to go try facing ourselves, test the team. And we're going to be using it with our standard Red Guild War Day, which is actually pretty solid, especially since Divinia came into the game the other week. Divinia, Yagwe, Ragnagord, and a Dawnbringer. So this is the current strategy that we are going to be going with. You can technically even put the new Mythic on here if you really wanted to, if you didn't have a Dawnbringer, but you had the new Mythic. But we'll be going with this. Basically, Divinia spam initially. This gives HP to Yagwe that you need to do his extra damage. We get Ragnagord for backup mana, and of course we have the Dawnbringer, which would normally be for keeping us safely protected. But obviously in this case, it might not work as well. Do keep in mind we are currently using the incorrect hero class for this as far as us. Of course, the enemy team is using the correct one, but I can't set both of them to something different. So unfortunately, I can't set my hero class to the correct option, but should still play out similarly compared to actually using a proper Red Day option. But right off the bat, we're not blocked on brown, so ideally we'll just go brown surge, get Ragnagord up immediately, and seems to be exactly so. We'll just go get a nice explosion down, clear out almost the entirety of the board, and see what he can do. We do have our submerge up on there, but he can easily cleanse it with a single extra turn. So gotta watch out for that. Ideally, we'll take yellow to get this up because it explodes all red, so we'll go for that. Okay, already one-shots, yep. And this is why you use this team on Red Guild War Day. But we'll go and move that over. Ideally, we'll have alignment on this. He gets a submerge on one of them, so I can't go use Dawnbringer on that now. He's actually protected. It's a really annoying one to have protected, though we just dispelled him. Normally, we actually wouldn't have Dispel on this day, but because we're currently using the hero class, we actually do get that off, so that's actually nice. Let's see, we'll go get a Dawnbringer down, because we can use the barrier still, of course. We don't have a summoner, so we have no way of re-preserving our points. Ideally, of course, one of the main strategies you use is barrier to make sure that that doesn't happen. But yeah, can't really always protect against them. We'll go and I guess get a Yagwe here. He's going to get a hit, which I think I'm just going to give him. It's only 29 damage on the hero, technically 34 because he won. Never mind, we actually get off the Cascade. Very nice. He still manages to find one, though, himself. Well, we'll take a red to brown, I guess, get all the manas we really need, get a Ragnagord in there. He's going to not have enough damage on that unless he hits our Yagwe. If he does hit Yagwe, that is still enough to one-shot, so hopefully he does not target the correct option. We'll go for that. See if that does enough damage. It does, because we got a skull. So even if he targets Yagway now, it will not kill him. And let's see, what will you do? He didn't go for the summon. This team can constantly keep resummoning as well. Let's see, what do we need here? Also, one alternative thing that you can do to this team too, which I haven't actually tested extensively to know which one would work out better, but knowing the AI, probably setting the trait so that it barriers a random ally when an ally dies might be better under AI control, because it might not take browns when it really needs it, or may keep taking brown when it already has barrier. But the other thing is, this thing will constantly keep summoning. So if you got it to a point, if the enemy was basically hero in third slot, Lady Ironbeard kind of sitting here, and the Highforge is constantly summoning in last slot. If the enemy has to keep hitting out whatever the first slot is with Yagway or whatever they might be using, to standard skull spam, or whatever they may be doing, they would keep barriering up a random ally every single time they get a kill. So that could potentially be a lot more helpful than the brown. Still haven't tested that out extensively, but can go with either or. They both seem to be decently good. It's just you never know how the AI might completely royally mess up absolutely everything. Don't underestimate how badly the AI does not know how to play. And then we just go for Dawnbringer. That actually won't be enough damage, really. I guess we go for Ragnagord and hope we get really lucky off some kind of Cascade here. And of course, we do have Brownstorm right now. That's mainly from our actual Storm thing. Normally, we'd use a different hero class for that. But there we go. Somehow we still managed to get gold off of that, probably from all of our extra turns. And yeah, that is pretty much the new Runepriest. As far as the overall thing for it, it's mainly used for Red Guild War Defend, and that's about it. As far as other teams you would use it for, there's definitely a lot of potential for it in the future with Apothecary Highforge, particularly some kind of new dwarf coming into the game with possibly Hero Apothecary Highforge. Alternatively, there are some possibilities that may be able to work with Bloodhammer into the future. Currently, there already are some that work, of course, but even more options could end up being included, simply because you do gain attack every single time you take every single extra turn that you do. And if you're skull spam extra turning with something like a Bloodhammer kind of team, you can get a lot of additional damage stacked up, not only from, of course, the Doom Skulls themselves, but also just from every single attack buff that just keeps getting higher and higher. So a lot of potential with the hero class. At the current moment, I would say it's average, slightly above average, but definitely one I will be using from time to time, kind of like how I would occasionally use Bard for certain things in Guild Wars, stuff like that. Runepriest is basically going to be one of those kind of things too, where you just bring it out for some of those events where it might kind of be very niche on some teams and kind of work, but for the most part, it's just going to be on the back burner. Definitely not one I'd bother going all the way to 100 to, but definitely worth getting 70 for the Dispel or the extra brown mana. But anyways, guys, if you guys still have any other questions or anything you want me to go over, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a wonderful weekend. Make sure to get the Runepriest before you finish out the weekend. Goodbye, everyone.